people would like to do this, what I call tempting shortcut, just code, you end up spending a lot of time debugging, revising, and you may take a lot longer than if you actually spend some time thinking. We're going to learn in this class some tools for thinking so that you know how to write code automatically and correctly, okay? Okay. So let's talk about programming languages for a moment. There's 3 levels of programming languages. How many people have heard of these? Machine, assembly, and high level. How many people have heard? Okay, so let's start with machine. What's machine language? What do you know about machine language? Yeah. It is binary because zeros and ones, that's the only thing the computer understands. But there are specific, it's not just binary, random binary. It's some specific code that the computer understands. What else do you know about machine language? Yes, it's the only thing the computer can run. Bottom line is the computer executes machine language, okay? Now, here's the bad news. If you have a Mac, and if you have a PC-type device, and if somebody else has a mainframe-type device, what do you think is true about the machine languages for each of those devices? They're all different, okay? So every type of computer, now if you have a Mac and you have a Mac, same machine language, okay? If you have a PC, HP, Dell, it's going to be similar, okay? But every type of computer has its own machine language. All right, so first of all, we don't write in machine language because it's awful. It's ones, zeros and codes and tedious, right? Okay? So very quickly we learned that was not a good way to code. But keep in mind 2 things about machine language. It's the only thing that can be directly used by the computer, and it runs only on a specific type of computer. Okay? Does that make sense? And we call that not portable. So a program that's written in machine language cannot be taken from a Mac to a PC and run. Make sense? You with me? Okay. Now, there's also a language called assembly language. What do you know about assembly language? What do you know about assembly language? Not much? So this is a step above the binary codes. This has languages such as, do I have an example? Can't remember if I do. This is machine. This is, here's an assembly language program. And if you look at this, most of you will probably be able to understand it once I explain it to you. This is a procedure. This says compare AX to 97. This says jump if less than to done, which is down here. This says compare AX to 122. And this says jump if greater to done, which is here. And this says subtract 32 from AX, return NP. Okay, so I'll give you this. It's better than binary. Okay? Still pretty code-like. Okay? Now, the other disadvantage is that, do I not say it here? Assembly language is also not portable. What do I mean by that? Different per computer. Different per computer. So if you write a language in assembly language, it cannot be run on a different computer. Okay? Now, assembly language is still used to some extent for some things. Why do you think assembly language would be used anymore? Any ideas? Well, it's close to machine language. What's the advantage of that? It's fast. An assembly language program does not have a lot of overhead. It can execute very fast. Okay? Now, if you write an assembly language program, you can't run it directly because, I forget, computers can only execute what? Machine language. So if I write an assembly language program, I must translate that and we're using an assembler. Okay? So those of you in Comp Sci will learn an assembly language, and you learn some of the benefits, and your control over the machine is you have very tight control over the machine with these languages. Okay? Now we're going to concentrate on high-level languages. And there's a couple of advantages. First of all, they're similar to English. They're standardized. Okay, I forget. Why is standardized good? We agree. We all agree. You're not writing one version of Java, and you're not writing another version of Java, and we're all talking. So they're standardized. Okay. Now, high-level languages are portable. Okay, I don't get that. What does that mean when I say high-level languages are portable? I can write a very time-consuming program in C or Java, and I can then take that to a different machine and run it on that machine language. So how do I do that? What do I need to do for my high-level language program to run? Somebody said it. Compile. I need to compile. So my high-level language, we're always going to compile it. It translates it to machine language. So then if I want to run it on a Mac, what does that tell me about that process? I have to use a different compiler. Yes. But I can spend months writing this beautiful program that does all these beautiful things I'm going to make tons of money on, and I can then compile it to be run on different platforms, and that's what we mean by portable. Does that make sense? That's what we mean by portable, and that's a good thing. Okay. Let's talk real quick about some of these languages. How many people have heard of Fortran? Now, if I ever get on a quiz show and the topic is programming language, I'm a guaranteed winner. I'm not sure it's going to do me any other good in life, but I know a lot about useless information about programming. So you've heard of Fortran. What do you know about Fortran? It was for scientists. It stands for Formula Translator. It's old. It was given away with PCs a long time ago. And when something's free, guess what? People tend to use it. Okay. What do you know about COBOL? Business and banking. COBOL was a language for business and banking. It stands for Common Business-Oriented Language. Told you I knew a lot of useless trivia. Okay. Pascal. How many people have heard of Pascal? What's that used for? Just teaching programming. It was designed just to teach programming. That's it. Okay. Ada. Anybody heard of Ada? What, did you know anything about Ada? It's a language that was, the government decided there were too many programming languages. This was about 20 years ago. No more programming languages, only going to be one. And it's going to be Ada. How well did that work? It didn't work too well, did it? But anyway, it brought some good things to programming languages. Okay, I want to talk about Visual Basic for a second. First of all, how many people have heard of BASIC? What is BASIC? What do you know about BASIC? What's that? No, it's a high-level language. For beginners. Beginners, all-purpose, symbolic instruction code. Okay? So BASIC for beginners, most people don't use BASIC anymore, but a lot of you have heard of Visual Basic. The same goal. Who uses Visual Basic? People that don't have a lot of programming experience. That's what it's designed for. Managers. I don't want to be disparaging, But in other words, people can relatively quickly write a simple program in Visual Basic. Okay, it's simpler. All right, so let's talk about C++ and Java, because that's what we're going to use. In 1972, the C language was created by Dennis Ritchie. That was a long time ago. Okay? He was working at Bell Labs, which is a well-known research institution that does a lot of really cool software and system development. At the same time, Unix was being developed at the same lab. So once they saw how cool C was, they rewrote a lot of Unix in C. A lot of people think of Unix and C going together, but it really was just sort of happenstance. They don't have to be together. Unix was rewritten mostly in C. They were developed at a similar time. Now, C is what we call a structured language. We're going to talk about that. And that's when, in 1970s, what kind of programs were being written? Who was using computers then? What's that? Mostly government. I mean, it really wasn't as widespread. They were using it for things like the IRS, for data, for military, pretty algorithmic type problems, okay? Now, with the PCs in the 80s, 70s and 80s, applications, I use this word, it's not very technical, became a lot funkier. I mean, we started to do a lot of other things. And we weren't just running reports. Do you know what I mean? We started to do expert systems. We started to do visualization, graphics, a lot of, does that make sense, funky applications? So they decided they needed another paradigm, and that's when the object-oriented paradigm was created. And they actually did something smart because there were so many C programmers, and I'm going to push this up just so that I don't have to move the... because there were a lot of C programmers, let me do no show. Hold on. Okay, so here's the picture. C is a structured language. Okay? A lot of people used it, very popular. Object-oriented was a new paradigm, and it solved some of these funkier problems better. They had two choices. They could make a brand new language, or they could add features to C that were object-oriented, and they could call that new language what? And that's what they did. So C is at the heart of C++. We are mostly using C-like functionality in C++. But it's also, we're going to use the C++ environment. Okay, so are there any questions? We'll continue with this. You can start your homework. You won't be able to do the problems yet, but you will be able to start a couple of the questions. Start looking for partners for your homework, okay? And join the Facebook group.